been waiting for. Please welcome the Pelbros podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Pelbros podcast. We're discussing everything New Orleans Pelicans and basketball related here. Myself, James, your host. If you're new to the podcast, definitely check us out on all our socials at Pelbros on Instagram as well as Pelbros on YouTube. Got a lot of content coming out on our YouTube recently. It's YouTube exclusive, a bunch of highlights. Our podcast episodes also go up there in case you wanted to check it out. So yeah, definitely find us, subscribe, and thanks for tuning in. Again, recording another episode solo, but going to get some support from Ryan throughout the episode, which you'll hear. It goes to show how dedicated he is. He's busy out there in his re-education and still hitting me up with recordings and snippets on his thoughts on the Pels. So huge ups to him. Shout out to Ryan if you're there. In today's episode, going to try and make it a quicker episode so you guys don't have to listen to my voice for half an hour. But going to be looking at some of the games that we played in the past week, going over the review of some of the predictions from last week's episode, how the individual games went, and then also a look into the future games and some predictions there. But before we jump into it, just want to quickly do something a bit new or start something a bit new, and that's going to be the Pelbros shoutout of the week. So if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you've heard us give plenty of shoutouts. We kind of love shoutouts, so why not just make it a thing? So going to try and do this every single week. Going to have one shout out probably from once Ryan comes back, we'll each do one. But yeah, going to be shouting out whether it's a Pelicans player or anything in general. Could be life related or really just anything we want to shout out. For this week, it's definitely going to go to Zion Williamson. If you follow the Pelicans, you obviously know why. Recently, I think about 5 days ago, got announced as an All-Star reserve. So huge ups to him. Round of applause. Yeah, second year of his career and already being named an All-Star. So huge ups to him. He's been absolutely killing it this season. He started it last year already kind of dominating in those, I think, 19 or so games that he had played. And this year he's just taken an extra step forward. Understand's been really good for Zion. He's really committed a lot of resources to Zion and made him be a much more prominent player compared to last year in terms of just ball handling, in terms of responsibility, in terms of role. Just want to give a quick plug of his stats up until this point. So he got announced All-Star about a week ago. So these stats are going to be including the past few games. So not completely accurate, but close enough. So up until now, averaging 25.5 points a game on 61.5% field goal percentage, which is absolutely ridiculous efficiency. 7.1 rebounds, 3.3 assists, which are both improvements on last year. And his numbers on steals, blocks also have improved, as well as his free throw shooting. So, completely dominant numbers out there, pretty much almost video game numbers. One of the most efficient 20-plus scorers in the most efficient 20-plus points per game scorer in the league right now, and one of the most efficient in history. Huge, massive shout out. I think I want to just quickly talk about his February, which has been enormous for him. So while December he started off in January not as dominant, his February is definitely I think what helped him get over the line for that All-Star selection. For his February alone, 27.3 points a game, which is ridiculous. 6.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, field goal percentage of 64.7%. Which is absolutely crazy. Again, video game numbers, true shooting percentage of 69%. Just dominated teams, and a February that was, went a lot better for the Pels than the other months. But he had a stretch where he scored. I'm just going to call each score during this stretch: 29 points, 36, 26, 31, 36, 23, 28, 32, and 34 points. Completely ridiculous. So yeah, my Pelbros shout out of the week goes to Zion. And Ryan, unfortunately, he's not here. But he, like I said, he is sort of supporting this episode, doing it through his own recordings. And yeah, he gave a little shout out to Zion as well. So we'll hear from him right now.
Man, every time I try to leave, Something keeps pulling me back, me back. Shit, alright. I'll make this one quick and short. Alright, but this is probably the last time you fucking properly hear from me, alright? Just need to do a proper shout out. Obviously, big shout out, big ups to our big boy, Zion Williamson. Check out the video that James has dropped, even. I dropped a little video too, earlier on too. Shout out to him with his all-star selection. Obviously, I think BI deserves some love, obviously, but it's all a popularity contest at the end of the day. Shout out to Zion, but shout out to the fucking team too. This week has been quite great. I wasn't expecting us to win the Bucks game, but that's cool. Because guess what? I still won my fucking bets anyway this week. I'm fucking balling. I'm living the fucking good life right now. And, somehow I'm actually up now this entire season in terms of betting. Like, I was having a bad losing streak before. But this week itself, I've turned it all around. I'm in the green, my man. I'm in the green. So, yeah, gamble responsibly and peace.
Yeah, good to hear from you as always, Ryan. Yeah, it just reminded me that we did drop a bunch of Zion Williamson All-Star content. So this video, check it out on YouTube. Two of our most recent videos. There's a highlight one, which is blowing up at the moment, and another kind of funny skit video. I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, huge props to Zion once again. A bit bittersweet that obviously Brandon Ingram got All-Star last year, but missed out this season. But it was just super competitive with so many guys that were healthy and also deserving of an All-Star spot. But in the end, Zion has become the focal point of the franchise and the team, and he's definitely deserving of that All-Star selection. Cool. Now, now that that's out of the way, you're hearing a few shout-outs moving forward for each week. But now that that's out of the way, let's go through the games that we played in the past week. So, yeah, jumping into our predictions from last week. So I predicted in that episode that we will go 2-1. A bit ambitious. Unfortunately, I was wrong, and we went 1-2. So I predicted a win against Detroit, the loss against Milwaukee, which were both correct. I actually said a win against San Antonio, going against my gut, being that optimistic Pels fan as always, and calling a win. And unfortunately, we took a loss just yesterday. So yeah, just quickly going through each game, quick review. The game against Detroit that we played on Thursday, the 25th for us, 24th for you Americans. Yeah, this was just a dominant game. What more can you say? This is against the Detroit, who I believe at the time were, I think, 8-24 or 23 or something like that. So these are the games that we said that we have to win. I called this game as a win purely off the fact that we had a 3-game break after the Boston game, and we actually picked up the win against Boston. This was a game we had to win. We had lost to Detroit early in the season, and we just, we need to beat these teams that are at the bottom of the ladder in order to kind of get to that 500 mark and even get to that 9th, 10 playoff tournament spots. Yeah, just must-win games as always. Dominant game from Zion Williamson. I believe the All-Star selection came either just right after this game, potentially even right before it. But yeah, putting up 32 points on crazy efficiency, 13 of 18, 6 of 9 from the free throw. This was just dominant. No one could stop him. Brandon Ingram also put up 27 points on 9 of 18 free throw. Really, this game just came down to our offense just clicking. So, looking through this game, it was actually quite competitive and neck and neck throughout most of the game, even though we did beat them by 10. And this really came down to a dominant fourth quarter from us. But throughout the game, it was really just offense just looking good. So we shot 55.6%, 50 of 90 from the field, 10 of 23 from the 3, which is 43.5%. It really just goes to show that our whole offense was shooting well. They still put up 118 points, which means that our defense wasn't too amazing. Our free throw shooting wasn't that great, so our lead probably should have been bigger in the end. But overall, a win's a win. We'll take it. And really, if our offense can click for other games, we'll pick up those easy dubs. Moving on to the second game against the Bucks. Called this as a loss last week. Pretty sure I said that quite simply that Giannis is just going to dominate, and he did exactly that. 38 points from him, 10 rebounds, 14 of 27 from the field. Really, no one on our team could stop him. Steven Adams had a shaky game, especially on defense. So, while he was grabbing boards, he just really couldn't stop the Bucks from scoring, especially in the paint. And then Zion, while he put up 34 points, 15 to 26 from the field, purely dominant on offense. His plus-minus was a -11, which was a game low. And that really just suggests that whenever he was on the floor, unfortunately, we lost the lead, really. That could probably go against his favor, considering that when he's on the court, it's likely that Giannis is on the court, and that's why that lead, that plus-minus is so low. But really, 38 points from Giannis, 31 from Middleton, 24 from DiVincenzo even. Yeah, they really could not be stopped. And this came, and while we said the Detroit game was all about offense, really this game was also about offense. But what really contributed to the loss was our lack of defense. Unfortunately, we weren't able to stop them. The game was competitive overall throughout first, pretty much all the quarters, really. But it came down to the clutch, and defense was the determining factor. And really, it was about the Pels not being able to get stops. So I think by third quarter, it was actually neck and neck, tied. And in that fourth quarter, Milwaukee just went away with a 4-point lead, and we lost 129 to 125. So, yeah, overall, by halftime, both teams had already scored 150 points roughly in total. So really, it just came down to defense and not being able to get those stops in the end. So, yeah, a bit of a blip in the winnings. Not to say it was unexpected. We had beaten the Bucks in the previous game that we played against them. And we were saying, Drew kind of gifted that one to us. So Drew didn't actually play this one. He was actually been out for about 10 days due to COVID protocols. And he's actually back now as I'm recording this. But yeah, he wasn't here for this game. Didn't get that revenge kill on us. But maybe that's a good thing. But overall, yeah, couldn't beat the Bucks. Huge props to the Pels for keeping it competitive. I think that's the main takeaway from this game. And really, it's just about moving forward. How do you defend and stop, bigger, small forwards like Giannis, power forwards, because you're going to be matched up with guys like KD, LeBron, Kawhi throughout the league, and we'll need to figure out a plan to stop them. And really, that's about getting Zion better on defense and kind of getting him more help around on defense. So moving on to the Spurs game. So the Spurs games, I didn't manage to catch a lot of that game. So I'm actually going to throw it over to Ryan here to summarize his thoughts on it, as he's been kind enough once again to support us on the episode. So yeah, we'll hear from Ryan right now.
Yeah, so I just got done watching that Spurs game. I have to fucking, quickly say something. I mean, right now in the background, you might be able to hear it. It's the Canelo boxing match going on, just walking in now. However, that's not the point. The point is I just fucking watched that Spurs game. I didn't necessarily lose a bet, but, because the offer is that I'm going to get matched, right? The only thing that I didn't get was fucking Zion Williamson 25 plus points, right? Motherfucker was on 23. Okay, first off, why the fuck you missing your fucking free throws, you motherfucker, right? But that's not the point. I love you, Zion. The main point is, fuck you, Lonzo. Fuck you, Lonzo. What the fuck are you doing, alright? How he blew it on the fucking Bucks game was he was being a little fucking bitch and didn't take the fucking three. And now this time around with the fucking Spurs game, down the stretch, there's this one possession where he's trying to be a fucking hero. He passes the ball over to Zion passes it back to him, and he decides to take a fucking three rather than just passing back to fucking Zion. And Zion could have obviously easily got a foul, a trip to the free throw, potentially even fucking 3-point play. But no, Lonzo wanted to be a fucking hero and fucked it up, so I specifically needed to get this off my chest. This is the last message you hear from me. Fuck you, Lonzo. I didn't lose any fucking bets necessarily, but fucking hell, what the fuck you doing, man? Work your shit out.
It's good to hear a solid rant. Haven't heard one in a while. Thanks, Ryan. But yeah, that game, I mean, his thoughts pretty much summarize most of the game. It wasn't completely on Lonzo, but he didn't have, the best game. He was bound for kind of a poor shooting night, as he's been on a bit of a hot stretch. But overall, 117 to 114 loss for the Pels. Like I mentioned earlier, I actually predicted a win for this game, but really that was just me being super optimistic as a Pels fan, coming off a a few good wins. I like that win against Boston. But overall, this game just came down to being better coached. I mentioned last week that Popovich has always been able to outcoach us, and his teams have always had the number on us. And then also just execution. So when it comes down to those important plays, to those clutch moments, to overall team ball and good fundamental basketball, the Spurs are gonna come out on top. Somehow, once again, they're able to revitalize the corpse of LaMarcus Aldridge. I said this in the last episode that last year he was burning us, putting up 20 to 30 points a game against us. He did it again. He's not even starting. So he came off the bench, scored 21 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 10 of 10 from the free throws. But really it was him and really DeRozan. DeRozan, shout out to him, 32 points, kind of torched us, 11 assists. Really couldn't stop him. So while, those guys, I guess that dynamic duo is playing well. We had our own. Ingram did get his 29 points. Zion, as you heard from Ryan, he only scored 23, so missed out on his 25-point bet mark. But the Spurs were able to crowd Zion whenever he had the ball, figure him out. They are such a solid team defensively. But overall, this game was really lost in that second and third quarter. So while we did outscore the Spurs in that fourth quarter, it wasn't enough, because by the second and third quarter they had already pulled out to a 10-point lead, and we only managed to outscore them by 7 in the fourth. But yeah, overall, the Spurs are a great team defensively. They're going to give you trouble every single night. Even from last year when they weren't in the playoffs run, this year they're 17-12 in that top 8, solidifying their spot for sure. But yeah, just echoing some of what Ryan said. Unfortunately, Lonzo didn't have a great game. 16 points, 6 of 17 from the field. Really glaringly, I think it's that 3-point shooting. 3 of 12 from the 3. It's pretty ironic because I think only a few days ago, I think it was after that Bucks game actually, where he shot 60% from the 3-point. The stat actually came out that Lonzo's now shooting above 40% from the 3. People were really hyping it up, giving him a lot of props, especially ever since the trade rumors came out. He's been playing super well. Like I mentioned, he's been on a bit of a hot streak, and it just really, him crashing down to earth this game. 3 of 12 from the 3-point, really cold for the night. Unfortunately, it looked like he was forcing it a bit. Like Ryan mentioned, there was that one play at the end where we were down by 4, 20 seconds left. Zoe had just passed it to Zion. Zion passed it back to him. Looked like they were going to set up a play. We are down 4, but Zoe, guessing that he thought that he had a good shot, took a 3-point shot, which unfortunately bricked, and gave up the possession to the Spurs. I wasn't too mad about that play, that shot itself. It probably would have been well suited going to Ingram, who was feeling it that night with 29 points. But yeah, disappointing to see Zoe take that shot and then kind of just see it miss, flail his arms, stand there, and not get back on defense. And then Patty Mills managed to grab the ball, pass it off to DeRozan, who scored an easy layup. So, while Zoe running back on defense might not have stopped the 2 points, it would have been good to actually see him put a bit of effort there. Unfortunately, he kind of just took the questionable shot and then kind of just rang it in and kind of gave up on that play. So, not putting the game on Zoe specifically. If you wanted to shit on some players, Josh Hart, you've been brilliant for the past few games coming off the bench, but unfortunately not this one. 2 points, 0 of 8 from the field, 0 of 6 from the 3-point, 31 minutes. It's pretty clear that those 31 minutes were put on for you to help defend DeRozan and the likes. But yeah, just offensively, struggling this game for sure. 44% from the field for the team, 9 of 32 from the free throws. So yeah, really this is just the opposite of that Detroit game where the offense was clicking and we were shooting well. And unfortunately this game, not being able to get stops on our end against guys like DeRozan, against guys like Aldridge, but then also us, not shooting too well. So unfortunately that put us at 1-2 for the week. Not the outcome that we wanted, not the outcome that we unfortunately predicted. And that has put us at 14-19. So a few 5 wins away from that 500 mark. We're still at 11th, unfortunately. Really, we're shooting ourselves in the foot with games and losses to the likes of the Spurs. I will say that at least with these losses, they're actually really competitive. So we only dropped the game to the Bucks by 4 points, and a few of those points came from free throws in Garbo time. And then the Spurs game, we're only down by 3. Overall, that's a solid effort. At least we were keeping the games competitive, and we made sure to stick with the other team for most of the game. There were games last year where we really were just dropping games unnecessarily, and especially this year, Bucks and the Spurs aren't a joke. They're both playoff teams and likely to hold those spots. But really, this 14-19 record and these kind of one-off losses here and there, they're really going to hurt us, especially considering that Memphis has a bunch of games cancelled from COVID. Who knows if they'll actually reschedule and catch up all those games, but if not, really that winning percentage is going to come down to it. And while we're able to beat the Grizzlies every time we see them, we just beat them by I think almost 20 last game. They're currently sitting on 15-15, which is at that 500 mark, as well as Dallas 16-16. So while we can beat the Grizzlies, no doubt, it's going to be that winning percentage that determines who kind of falls into that 9th and 10th spots for that playoff tournament. So in the end, we got a lot of chasing to do. We really need to kind of hit the ground running with some wins, especially against those bottom tier playoff teams. Making sure that we always beat the teams outside of the 8, kind of like the Detroit, kind of like the Pistons, but making sure that we also get those scrappy wins against 5, 6, 7, 8 seed teams like Spurs, Blazers, teams like that. Cool. So gonna look ahead to the games for the next week. Hopefully I'll have another podcast next Monday as well, same time, same day, potentially on that Sunday. But this next week will be the last week before the All-Star break. So we have 3 games upcoming, one against Utah, which is happening tomorrow actually, and then Chicago, and then Miami. So I'll quickly run off some predictions for those games. I think overall we will go... I'm going to be optimistic again and make the same mistake as I did last week, I'd say, and say 2-1. Game against Utah, I'm predicting a loss. This is going to be This is a 3-game home stretch, but Utah are just too damn good at the moment. They're actually the best team in the NBA standings wise. So they're 27 wins, 7 losses, which is absolutely ridiculous. 80% win rate at the moment. They're honestly probably the best team in the league, best team in the West. Just very, very complete team. We're going to get torched by the 3, like we did last game. So yeah, expecting a loss here. Not much else to say. Then we've got the game against Chicago, which is actually 2 days later. This is just, I'm going to call a win. We did take a loss to them last game where Zach LaVine put up, I think it was 46 points. That was actually coming off a back-to-back. So yeah, this one now we have a 2-day break in between. I'm going to call a win. We're going to want to get our revenge. Stan's going to make some adjustments that he knows that we're going to need for this game based on the last one. I'm going to call a dub. And then I actually did. Originally I did say 2-1 from this week. And the next game is against Miami, which should be, I was calling a win in that case. But I might have to actually change my prediction because this is actually coming off a back-to-back. So we play Chicago on the 4th of March on Thursday for us Aussies, 3rd for Americans. And the next day we followed up with a game against Miami. So while this is still a home game, if history serves us right, we have said this multiple times on the pod, we don't play well in back-to-backs. And we've seen that against Houston, seen that against Chicago, where we both took big losses coming off a back-to-back. We just struggled to back up our performances. Because this is a back-to-back against Miami, Miami do have Jimmy Butler back in their most recent games, and they've been on a bit of a mini stretch themselves. They were actually outside of the top 8 for a while at the start of the season, and now they've managed to bounce back. 7-3 in their last 10 games. Jimmy's been killing it. He's really taking that leadership of that team. Yeah, honestly, just because it's a back-to-back, I'm going to have to call a loss, unfortunately, and change my prediction. So, while any new fans might say that I'm just a hater of the Pels, or I don't believe in them, just go back to all our previous episodes where we've made optimistic predictions and have been wrong. So I'm going to learn from last week's episode mistake where I caught an optimistic win against the Spurs. I'm going to change my prediction from a win against Miami to a loss. So unfortunately not the outcome we want to see going to the All-Star break. Hopefully, we are able to scrap 1 or 2 more wins from this next week's stretch. After that Miami game, it's a 1-week break for the All-Star game. So definitely tune into that if you can. Check out our boy Zion. There's a potential chance he could be in the dunk contest. I mean, there's been some rumors. I don't particularly want to say it because my man's knees, need to protect my man's knees. Make sure he stays healthy. I don't even want to see him get that many minutes in the All-Star game because really we just want to keep him healthy. That All-Star game will provide a bit of a mini break. Should be able to record an episode by then, just recapping those previous 3 games we just went through, and any potential kind of housekeeping and really predictions for the second half of the season, which is going to be in full effect. So we've got the full schedule for the second half of the season. It should start to get a bit easier. I think we started off the season with a pretty tough schedule, hopefully we'll pick up some more wins post All-Star break, and guys like BI and Zion will just continue to gel and really just play better. So that pretty much wraps up the episode. I said I'd keep it shorter, but it still went on for pretty long. If you liked what you've listened to, definitely check us out. Give us a like, subscribe, follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. Once again, check out our YouTube channel when you can. That's pretty much it. If you're still tuning in, thanks, and I'll catch you on the next one. Laters.